Panasonic versus GoPro Hero 4 test. Very low light. Indoors. Panning. Lighting. Bit difficult. Panasonic at 6400 ISO. At 4K, 30 frames a second. In this video I'm testing the GoPro Hero 4 against the Panasonic Gh4. I'm shooting both in 4K video and I've compressed them down into a 1080p video file here. So if you're watching this on your computer screen, watch it in 1080. However, this is them both compressed down so they both fit into the screen. In the next part I'll show you where we've expanded them up to their native 4K resolution and just use the central crop. And we're looking at the difference of the two different cameras here. So what I first thought was, oh my goodness, the GoPro Hero 4 is totally beating the Panasonic Gh4. It's much brighter, there seems to be less lens flare. I just thought this looked so much better. However, once you start to look at it a bit more carefully, you notice it doesn't hold up quite as well. So if you look at, okay, so what I would say is the Panasonic is definitely darker. That is for sure. Here is again at its full GoPro Hero 4 versus Panasonic GH.
And you can really see the noise is far more obvious in the GoPro Hero 4. The lens flare that I got in the Panasonic GH4, I thought that was annoying, but not too bad. However, when you look at Neil there, you see that you can barely make out his face with the GoPro. And again, if you're looking through into the hall here, you can see the details of the lights. However, you can't see them in the GoPro Hero 4. There is also a strobing effect happening with the Panasonic Gh4. Again, this is a low lit location where it's... also the autofocus, very good, which you don't get in the GoPro Hero 4. So yeah, the strobing effect that we're getting here, that's because it's LED lights here and the frame rate is possibly not the best for this lighting situation. So yeah, there's much more details in the shadows in the GoPro Hero 4. However, with that, there is a lot more noise at the same time. So it's a difficult one to say which one's technically better. Now, in this section, I'm actually doing the Canon 5D Mark II versus the Panasonic Gh4. And the Canon 5D Mark II, again, with the same ISO settings, is a brighter image. So Panasonic definitely, in its ISO settings, is fudging the numbers a good bit. And it still seems like it's suffering from the LED strobe effect in this location. Also, the other thing is with the Canon, it's a f2.8 that you can get with the Canon camera, the 16 to 35 f2.8, affording it the ability to have a lower ISO for the same amount of exposure. There also seems to be far less lens flare with the lens that you get with the Canon compared to what you do with the Panasonic. If you look at the Panasonic on the left, you get much more lens flare. So here, just so you can see, this is me staring into the mirror, so you can see which one is which.
Okay, white balance of...
And there, so there's trying to show off the lens flare that you could definitely get.
4300 on both cameras, both set to their widest, 7mm on the Panasonic, both at f4, ISO at auto.
Now, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting because look on the left, the Panasonic, we've now zoomed it up to full scale, that looks sharper. Now, there is a potential that there's motion blur causing this, but consistently, the Canon doesn't seem as... Well, obviously, because it's a 16mm lens instead of a 7mm lens, you get less depth of field, which means that more of it's going to likely be in blur. So this is something also to be aware of. With the Panasonic Gh4, if you're using a 7 to 14mm lens, you get more depth of field, which means more of the area will be in focus. And also the Panasonic does autofocusing while you're recording. The Canon doesn't, or you'd have to stop and it would have to hunt for it. So that's something which I find quite interesting. So every time I freeze frame it, on the left, the Panasonic, I think, looks sharper all the way through the image. Also, if you look at the shadow noise in the Canon on the right, on the edge of the bar, you're seeing a lot of noise going on there. On the Panasonic, on the left, it's just totally black. So you've got crushed blacks on the left, but you've got a lot of noise on the Canon. The Canon is right, if you look up in the roof as well, or in the ceiling part, you get a lot more detail around the light. However, that's just pointless detail, that's just kind of burnt out detail. And at the same time, it just seems sharper all the time with the Panasonic, both shooting at 1080p there. So it's, again, this is actually a difficult one to decide. Do you go for the more depth of field and the more crushed blacks, or do you go for the higher shadow noise that you're getting with the Canon and less depth of field? That is up to you and the type of job that you're doing. In the end, it's difficult to say exactly which one is best for the job. The GoPro Hero 4, you don't have any exposure control and is fairly noisy. The Canon 5D Mark II is great with the ISO, it's good exposure, however you've got no autofocus and you do have a shallow depth of field. The Panasonic Gh4, you've got 4K possible resolution, however you do also have high ISO noise problems, but you do have a great depth of field. So it's entirely up to you what you think your situation would benefit from the most. One last thing is that if you are on my photography channel, you may not know that I've got two other channels. One is my exercise channel, which you can check out, which is Dom Bauer Exercise. I think the actual name is just youtube.com/Dom Bauer. And I've also got another one on this channel, so I've got Dom's Talks. And a lot of that is going to be about, well, me dealing with my first ever newborn baby, little Logan Bauer. Born on the 4th of September, and so I'm learning to be a dad. So it's all my mistakes and all the things which I'm learning which are quite useful. So if you want to see more about little Logan and how he's getting on, check out Dom's Talks. And if you want to see, oh, I've also got Dom's Flights as well. So again, I'm doing a lot of stuff flying my DJI Phantom around the places, and also going through the process of getting the license to do it commercially. So if you want to see how I'm doing that, check out the Dom's Flights channel as well, which I put all the links to down below. So thanks for watching, bye bye.